Okay, lovelies. Shall we get start building our terrain that came with Warhammer, that terrain pack special, Warhammer Combat Patrol terrain pack special. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue this together. Now, this is the basis for the base for this entire unit. I can't remember if this is the orspecs. I think this might be the orspecs tower. And essentially, as a bit of kit, it's goes together fairly easily. The cleanup is what takes the longest, I think, with a lot of these terrain pieces. But this one, we have some seams down the front. Luckily on this side we've got this pipework going up the centre, which will hide most of the seam on this side, which is fortunate. You do have the added bonus of just adding in some extra glue from the other side. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this tower, but I'm not going to glue the ladder on. And the reason I'm not going to glue the ladder on for the time being is, one, for ease of painting, because it just makes it easier to get access to what's behind the ladder. But two, because I don't know if you can see that, as I press this, you can see that it starts to bead up. And that bead, when it dries, I'll be able to easily sand it away, and that will make the seam much easier to get rid of once that's dry, and therefore disguise it. But that's your base unit. Okay, you've then got this gantry piece which goes on there, and we're just going to glue this around like so. And that's that. And essentially what you would do is you would look to put your ladder on there like so. And then you have these bits which glue on there. Okay, so I will glue these on. Leave the ladder in place so that when the glue dries, they are in the correct orientation. So, like that, I think. Like you say, but yeah, I'm not your size. Right, so I should be able to then obviously lift that on and off. So I'll be able to glue that into position when I'm ready. and that will be all tickety boosh me like that. Right, so there's that bit. We're then going to do exactly the same sort of thing with this. As I say, we're going to glue it from the outside and we're going to press it together to form a bead. And let's just shave that way. So and on this one we've got a Mechanicus cog that needs to go on. And again, this seam is partly hidden by the pipe work. So I'm literally just adding in the glue and then let it run via capillary action. But this is the side that I want to just get a beading on. We have, now this is going to go on so that this triangular piece is on the bottom, and you'll see how that fits into the way of it. So there's your cog symbol goes on. Like so, and then we have another bit of deck that goes on top there. Like that, and then we're going to join this to this, like there. Now, looking at this, I haven't trimmed anything away from these top parts, but there's obviously a clear gap there. But that is covered. By another piece. So this bit here, if you look at the way it's keyed, accepts these vents here. Now, I've pushed that in, and it does take, so we can do that and that. So this is what we've got so far. We then have, on top of this, this lamp assembly. And that's keyed, so you should only get it round one way. And then we have this antenna assembly, which again is keyed, so you should only get it round one way. that. So that's our basic assembly. We then have this control pad, and this is essentially designed so that the station, it is keyed, so you will only be able to put it on one way. So the station board is, or the dial board or whatever, control board is slanted so that when somebody stood at the station they can obviously see what is going on. And then this has hooks which allows you to position it on the platform on the edge. So you've got these two little hooks and you can position it how you would like, essentially. So if you want to put it there, you can do, or maybe there, or I'm going to put it this side like so. Let's just move it along. So that's where I'm going to position that, and I'm going to add the glue and glue in there and glue in there, and there you go. So there you go, that is the orspecs unit. I think it's the orspecs unit, it's not the communications antenna, because that's the rectilinear dish. That's what that looks like, complete. So come back in a sec and we will get the other bits done. Following on from our orspecs, the orspecs shrine, I think it was, or I can't remember what it was. We have the landing pad. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just glue the side supports onto the top of the stairs. And at this moment in time, there's kind of a reason why I'm thinking of keeping this separate as a bit of kit from the landing pad. These are great steps, by the way. I love them. It's a shame that GW do not just produce these as is, as a kit on their own, for use in various terrain projects. So the steps just go together like that. Kind of like an aircraft, a set of aircraft steps, really. When you think about it. So, and then these would obviously butt up against, say for example, they go up against the edge of the landing pad, kind of like that sort of thing. Now, the landing pad, this was actually the easiest of all of these pieces to clean up because there's actually not that much cleanup required. And the landing pad goes together essentially one side and one corner at a time. So like that. Now there's a bit of mismatch on these reservoir drums. I don't know what they are. Are they fuel drums, or are they like a fire suppression system for the landing pad if something crashes on it? Who knows? But these will require a little bit of work. Because there are gaps here, and again there's a gap this end. So I would recommend, if you have like mini sash clamps, using those to make sure that these, I don't have any unfortunately, I keep meaning to get some, I just haven't got round to it. So I would recommend doing that, and then you'll need to clean up these seam lines along the top of the containers there. So we then have an end piece going on. Some of this is mismatched. That's not okay, and it looks like the reason why that's mismatched is because I've got it on the wrong end. So when you look at this, you've got these little tabs on the inside, and they will marry up to corresponding slots here. Okay. Right, so let's try this again. So yeah, just be aware that there are tabs on the inside. It's not as easy to just put these together. And I've obviously, in noticing this, I've noticed that the tabs are also on the longer pieces as well. So they match up on the inside, short tab, long tab on these two bits. So those get pushed into place, and then the next one goes on. we've got 3 sides on. Let's do this last one. And what you have is you have opposite ends or opposite corners for each piece. So this vent will be mirrored in the opposite corner. So when you put your corner ladders in, they will go opposite each other on this particular build. And the pipe vent will go in the opposite corner. And then the pipe vents here go in this corner. You can tell it's pipe vents because you've got the divots here for the pipe vents, and they just go in like that. So I think I'm probably going to need to do a little bit of filling with some of these gaps. Just get the liquid green stuff out and fill some of these gaps on this. But this is essentially the landing pad, and you've got your ladder here which can go at either end. So the way this is designed, you can just pop it either end of the landing pad. So if you flip it round, then you can do that. I'm going to keep it off because I don't think that, I mean, you could pop it there and you still have access to this pipe work, because I don't think that I don't think that I'm going to want to stick it on, so that if I'm playing a scenario, I can, you know, seek to just put it into a position that I'm happy with. I may see if I can find some magnets to magnetize this so that I can just clip it on and off at whim. Now, the other thing about the landing pad is that apparently the hab blocks sit on top, or can sit on top. So this is interesting. Let's flip this round. So yeah, I don't know what's stopping this from sitting flush. It's this piece here, because I've swapped these around slightly so that I didn't follow the exact instructions, because I wanted differences on each side. So this, I've put these connectors here in, so I would potentially have to, if I wanted to place this on top, I would potentially have to just trim a rivet out of the way, trim a nut and bolt out of the way, or maybe even just mark this and then drill a hole big enough to let that sit on top. But your hab blocks are supposed to sit on top of these landing pads like so. Fuck you. Right, I do apologise. We're building the orspecs shrine, and I've been rabbiting away building it, and not realised that it wasn't recording. But quite simply, I'll have to just go through it bit by bit. Quite simply, what have we done so far? So first of all, we've built up the funnel here, which supports the radar dish base, and this is made up of two halves. I do apologise that you're not going to see this on camera. It's my fault. I am sorry. And then we've added on these 4 supports, and then we've added on these greeblies. Okay, so we're now going to add this to the base. This end cap here I've glued on, and what we're going to do is just glue the base on. So I do humbly apologise that I fluffed it up. Okay. Right, so that is sitting on there, and that is your base plate built up. Nice and simple. Okay. Coming to the radar dish, you have this piece here, and this is key. So there's a flat piece on the bottom of this tab, and then in the hole there's a corresponding flat piece. So this will only go on one way, like thus. Now once you've done that, what you're then going to do is put the antenna probe. Do we call it an antenna probe? And just get this right, because if you get it round the wrong way, it's not going to sit properly. So make sure, just take a bit of time, make sure that you get it right. And essentially, the reason it's not going to sit properly is because you've got a dimple there, but the hole on this side is a diamond. So that's what you need to do. You need to marry up your dimple and your diamond to the corresponding holes, and that will go into position like that. So there's your rectangular dish. Now, I built up, so this platform is a single piece, but you then have this armoured wiring column, and then you have these two side supports. And what I want to do is I've glued this into position, I've glued this into position. I did that early because I wanted those to go off as much as possible. Now, I don't know if you can see this in here, but I have had to trim out quite a bit of plastic. And the reason being is that if you want this to tilt, pan and tilt, what you have is two very, very stiff pieces of plastic marrying up, and it was a real effort to make them turn. Now, once paint gets on these, it's going to sort of like stiffen them up again, okay? But it's going to make it easier for us to deal with by trimming some of this up in order to get it into there and to fit nicely. Now, the way this works is you are going to pop that in there, and then this is going to marry up with corresponding pinholes on there, and then that, in theory, should slot into position, and then it should do this, okay, like that. Now that has stiffened up, okay. Once you get a bit of paint on this, it'll probably stiffen up a little bit more. But what we need to do now is just add in the glue to the base of this support, this side support. And I just want to get it in on this side as well, like that. Okay, so that's your support. Now, what happens is, on the back of this, you have a cross, but you only have a bar here. And the reason why that is done like that is so that if you wish, you can make it so that your antenna goes that way, or you can make it so that your antenna goes that way. It's entirely up to you. If you want to be enterprising, you could probably magnetize it, so that depending on which way you're feeling, you can be either standing up or laying down. But that is essentially your rectangular dish, your Vox, or your orspecs shrine, I should say. And that's how that looks, okay. I'm probably, at this moment in time, I'm not going to glue the rectangular into place. The reason being is that I want it to be easier to paint, and then I shall super glue it into position. But you have, like I said, you have the pan, so you can move from side to side, and then you have tilt. So yeah, that's really nice bit of scenery. I like it. I wish GW had come out with stuff like this earlier in the scheme of things. But, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, the last thing we're going to be building will be the hab blocks. So let's get on to that. Hey lovelies, so we're going to build our hab unit. Now the hab unit is really simple. You literally slot together basically. So you have these two long sides, you have these two short sides, and the way I looked at it was this was going to be the internal side of the door with these latches and the hinges on the inside, and this was going to be the outside with this strip lamp above the door illuminating it. So making sure I get those around the right way. Now what I decided to do, because ordinarily what you would do is you would basically have it so that you had both of these sort of like one way. So one side would be, it's probably best if I show you like that actually. So that would be the way that you would ordinarily do it, I think, according to the instructions. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both sides like that so that the pipe work is essentially at one end. So, and all you do is literally, you've got slots in these, so you can see there's a slot there, there's a slot there, and all you're going to do is that. Right, so this is how you make your hab block. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then if you want to glue your lid in the roof, you can do. What I've actually done is I've just glued the lid together, the roof, stop calling it a lid, glued the roof together, and I can move that as a single piece if I choose to. So that is, and I suppose what you can do is if you really want to, you can keep these separate. I'm gonna glue them. The first thing I'm going to do is glue the roof so that it has a bit of time to go off. And so I'm essentially just going to glue this like this so that the roof will stay together, and just make sure that that is contacted all the way around. Just going to set that aside to dry. So that's that, and then what I'm going to do is, because I'm happy to have my hab blocks remain built, I am going to just add the glue in. So yeah, this is it. This will, as the glue seeps in by capillary action, then this will obviously stick together. So this is how I'm going to do it. Now, there are some things on this which I have decided to do, and one of them is, so you get these barricades, okay, and you get one with the gate, and so that's that, but you also get these end caps, I suppose you could call them, but what these do is you put these here like this, and then that allows you to marry up your bit of fortified wall barricade, okay, in that manner. Now I went ahead and glued these in position, so I'm going to do exactly the same on the opposite side in the same place. And the reason I've done that is so that I can kind of make a specific fortified compound. I may very well purchase some additional hab units just so that I can definitely make the compound the way that I want to make it. So just glue that into position. And then the other thing I decided to do was, because I would make it so that the barricades butted up against this particular piece, that these windows here I would barricade up. So using, just trying to make sure I get the right way around, yeah, so I will, so these place in from the inside, and then you've got two little tabs. So if you look at this, you can see, or you should be able to see, it's got two little tabs on each side. So this goes in from the inside, and I found the easiest way is, once it's in position, just dab your glue and it will run via capillary action along the joint. And basically the way I kind of looked at it was, this was going to be these parts would be facing out of any compound that I sort of like made up for a game. And because of that, they have the windows permanently shuttered like this. And then the last one on this side. And that was my thinking behind doing it this way. So that's that, and then the roof can go on. Okay, so you have your 2 hab blocks done. Now the barricades have corner pieces, and the corner pieces are made up of 2 parts, which are these, and all these do is literally just go together like that. And again, if you're using sort of like Tamiya liquid cement or a plastic weld, then you can just pop it in like that. And that's that. The other thing that we have is this upper kind of wall topper for the roof. Now, do you know what? These I wasn't overly impressed with, because they don't... First things first, they don't actually just stand there. So at some point, if I want them on, so which end? So say this end was the end, so say that end, and I was doing the sort of like wall pieces like that. This would be the outside of the compound. So this would have to go someplace like this, or on here or something. Yeah, or just there. And at some point you will have to glue it, unfortunately. And what I was actually thinking was when I come to glue this permanently, I may just build the sides up with some little sandbags, because my thinking was that if you've got like a fortified compound and you had one of these, then this would allow you to fire down the length of the wall in enfilade. That was my thinking anyway. So obviously you then have these corner pieces which butt up against the compound walls, and that is kind of how it goes together. A little thing that I was playing with was having the hab unit and a hab unit either side of the gate. So the gated piece would go in between there like that, and that would be kind of like the fortified entrance, as it were, as in like a castle, you know, where you would have 2 towers flanking the gate for defence. So that would be my kind of idea. So with the hab unit being done, that is all of the items built. So we'll get these up on the table so you can have a look at them completed. You do have a number of spares, so you get 4 of these end caps to go onto your hab blocks if you so wish. You get, I think it's 6 of these little window covers to do with as you please, and then you get, you get 4 of these little lamp units. Now these were kind of like touted as being positionable in these sort of like runs. So you got these grooves here, and you can put them in, not the short ones but the longer ones, so you can put them in like that. Personally, I'm not going to do that. They're going to go in my bits box, and I will seek to use these in some other way. We've already got lamps above the doors, pre-moulded, and I think I shall leave it at that. And I'll probably at some point glue this wall on. And as I say, I might look for some sandbags. I know Renadra, is it Renadra do sandbag pieces? So I may get some of those. The other thing is that we're left with we're left with a number of sort of like tile pieces, roofing pieces. Now, the way I kind of look at this is that perhaps you might be able to use these as pathways, you know, just like pathways in bad repair. You've got the doors here on the hab units, and if you were putting this on a bit of MDF, you could potentially just slide one up like that right up to the door and use it as, you know, the entrance. Entirely up to you, whatever way you want to do it. You know, you could use it as part of the track plan, the broken track plan around the base sort of thing. Just you know, an idea. Or you can just literally hang on to them and use them in the bits box, put them in the spares bits box. But you get 8 pieces of wall. I mean, even with 8 pieces, you might still struggle to make quite a large compound, or at least a compound that is going to be fully enclosed. Nothing to stop you from positioning it in the corner of a board when you set your board up. But yeah, it's not a bad terrain kit, and I am genuinely thinking of getting some additional hab units, just basically so I have plenty of hab units and the barricade walls that I can use then to build a proper, reasonably sized kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Base. We'll go with base, a reasonably sized base that an explorator team might have set up, or something like that. We've already got the landing pad, we've already got the orspecs shrine and the Vox antenna, so maybe 2 extra hab units. I might even get a landing pad, you know, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, hopefully you'll join me in the next video. Alright, take care, bye bye.